Houston, our instruments are showing that we have a incoming message from deep space. Repeat, Houston, we have an incoming message from deep space. Houston, we'll begin playing message now. Houston, we're going to try and translate that up here. Hold for translation. Translation complete. We'll begin playing message now.
Hey, it's me, Melissa.
What do you do when the aliens invade? Take a shot of MK Ultra and watch Melissa Jade. Put on your tinfoil hat and tune right in. We got that crime spree, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, a complex Mandela effects, unidentified optics, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, where it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Aliens is on the sun or in Area 51. Time travels, unravels, haunted castles, cops are baffled, potential experimental thoughts that make you transcendental. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Crime sprees, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. Heymas has bent over. We have Harlot, People May, Lovely LaQuinn, Carolina, Elvin, Melanie, Kathy Ford, Trish, Claudia, Tiffany, Natasha, Megan, Kimberly, Grandma Cece, Kathy Swartz. Thanks again, Kathy. That was so kind. We have Julie B, Kelly Lisa, Molly Henry, Sherry Ford, Terry Ralph, Daniel, Grammy Nini, Princess Scary, Christina J, Meg P, Scara, Tucker Newsma, Maley, Mr. Shine, Fragile Like a Bomb, Rhonda, SW, Homer, Terry, Petunia, Little Red O, Keith. Thanks, Homer. Homer gifted a membership. Please make sure you thank Homer if you were lucky enough to receive that membership. Let me see. Get me scrolling up. Bogart, Sherry. Oh, lovely, LaQuinn. I'll check it out. Hi, Vern, my fellow Melissa. We have our damn Hi, Crickets and Shiggles. Hi, Toe Beans. We have our damn cross-examination of Grusing, and I'm so excited. Yo, last night, if you guys are on Patreon, if you guys remember when I ended, I said, hi, Crime Crochet Cafe. Well, I didn't say hi, Crime Crochet Cafe. Hi, Crime Crochet Cafe. And I said, oh, I'm going to upload the Wade calls. Yay, Terry, congratulations. I'm going to upload the Wade calls without commentary. Do you guys remember that? And I was like, I'll drop the first one tonight. Well, let me start here. I did record it 3 times. I didn't just not do it. I recorded it 3 times and then I uploaded it and I use it as like an unlisted YouTube link. And within 1 minute of it like fully uploading, it disappeared. And you want to know, I think I know why. Because it like is considered pornographic material. And I think because I did it via YouTube, YouTube like was like, nah. So I have to like screen record it and then upload it as like a video. Nope, I didn't go to sleep. I did it, and I did it 3 times because the first time the audio wasn't recording. The second time, I don't even remember what happened, but like it took 3 times to do it and I got it done. And then it just disappeared. Like YouTube removed it. And I'm assuming it's because there is no stopping and commentary. So it was just straight 15 minutes of like, you know what's on those calls. And I think YouTube just removed it. So I didn't forget. It just didn't let me. With that being said, my throat is killing me. I don't know what's going on, but if it sounds like, you know, raspy, I didn't just start smoking cigarettes or anything. Like, my throat hurts. But we're pushing through it. Hi, Alexander. Hi, Cherokee Girl. Caleb. We are pushing through it because we have Grusing on the stand and we have Will Cook. We have Will Cook versus Grusing. Okay. They are going to battle it out right now. Obviously, I am pro Grusing. Put your thoughts and which side you are on in the comments. And I don't remember how long cross goes. Is it going to happen? Is it only going to last a minute? I don't remember. But then we'll have redirect and jury questions. So I'm looking forward to it all. I know, Kathy. I wasn't singing and my throat started feeling like shit yesterday, but it's more shit today. You know what I mean? But we're pushing through it. And I'm really, really excited for Grusing. But I'm sad to see him leave. I don't want him to get off the stand. He was one of the best witnesses. Now, this is pure coincidence, but our missing child for tonight's live stream is Letecia Stauch. Beautiful eyes. Look at her eyes. She has been missing since September 18th, 2024 out of Kansas City, Kansas. She is 15 years old, so if you or anyone you know has information on Letecia's whereabouts, please contact the Kansas City Police Department at 1-913-596-3000. Look at the little freckle. She has such pretty eyes. But that was just pure coincidence that we got a Letecia. Thanks, Natasha. Hi, the Shiznets and Jenny B. Hi, Emily. Now, I updated my browser. Hi, Okie Crime News. I updated my browser, okay? So I'm going to try to not share it full screen. If you've been around, you know I'm referring to my audio issues that I've been having. I'm going to try to share it as I normally would. Please let me know if the audio becomes choppy or distorted in any way. I am hoping with the browser being updated, though, it may have solved the problem. But the only way I'm going to know is to be able to test it with you guys. So welcome, Lisa Mounts. Oh, awesome. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you here. Hey, Avery. Hi, Candace. You must be the one who gave me that. But dude, yeah, like, and it's always on the weekend too. Like, what? Not saying that I'd rather be sick at work, but like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it doesn't, doesn't freaking matter. But, and we got like the residual rain over here. But okay, guys, this is Letecia. Like I said, she's been missing since September 18th, 2024. If you're in the Kansas City area, please keep your eye out for her. She is 15 years old, and you can contact the Kansas City Police Department at the number located on the screen. Hi, hippie chick. She is beautiful. She has those really pretty hooded eyes and the freckles. Very, very beautiful. Prayers for a safe return. Hi, Mary Ann. Hi, Dana. Okay, so are you guys ready for Grusing? I'm so ready for Grusing. Where we last left off with part 31, direct rested. And we have cross with Will Cook getting up. Every single cross exam of these witnesses so far has either been non-existent or very minimal and not relative to what they testified to. Closed loop cruise lines. So Grusing, though, has been up on the stand for a significant portion of the time. Please don't forget, we've gone through pretext phone calls and we've gone through her interrogation all while John Grusing was up on that stand. This would also be a very important witness since Grusing is a behavioral analyst, right? He specializes in behavior, and that can align with what the defense is putting forward with NGRI. So, do we think they're going to do a good job? I don't know. Hi, Secret Forest. Oh no, I hope you feel better. So, let me pull this up. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. And we're getting inches and inches closer to Dr. Dorothy Lewis. Okay, so we were in the middle of the morning when we paused, so no new outfit. Okay, here we go. All right. Please, again, let me know if any audio issues come about.
Cook, how's this going to go?
And you can, yeah, I was going to say turn off the screen if you'd like.
Hey, Tony. Thanks, Little Red.
Mr. Cook, cross-examination.
Thank you.
Come on, Cook. He's got his smirk. He's got his
We're gonna
notes.
watch Letecia for this. Her head popped up now that she's not
Grusing,
being
good
taxed
morning.
anymore.
How are you?
Good morning. Good. Thank you.
So how long did you work for the FBI?
A few months short of 25 years.
25 years. Were you always in the Colorado office, or were you like a lot of other agents early in your career? You were in different states.
Always Colorado.
Always. Okay. And at one point near the end of the interview, Miss Stauch referred to you as something, and you corrected herself. You corrected her and said you're a behavior analysis.
She's
Okay, just pausing real quick. One, Grusing went over all of this at the beginning. Remember, as soon as a witness takes a stand, they ask their background, their credentials, their history. Grusing went over all this already, but it's okay. You know, fair enough. A little bit of a refresher since time has passed since that. Grusing at this point would be retired. Just a fun fact. Me and Keith were talking about it the other week because he messaged me and said, at this time of this trial, interesting enough, similar to Bethel, who retired right after Letecia, so did Grusing. Grusing retired 2021. I think he's doing security at schools, which is absolutely amazing. But I am curious if, similar to Bethel, this case really kind of was like that final, all right, I'm out. Like, it's just too much. It was too heavy. But yeah, he was doing it 25 years. I think he's amazing at it. And so it's nice to be able to witness his work, if that makes sense. Hi, Jinx. FBI, they have their folks retire at 25 years mandatory. Thank you, Little Red. Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Well, you corrected her and said you're a behavior analysis.
She said something like, I'm a psychologist.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm in behavior analysis.
Okay. And is that generally what you did throughout the majority of your career?
No.
Okay.
Hey,
What else
Squirrel.
were your other assignments? And I know you already told Mr. Allen
Congrats,
this, but,
Marianne.
I have to hear things a few times before they sing.
No worries. Yeah, so I was a special agent, and I was assigned to the criminal side for the FBI. There's a terrorism side or counterintelligence and a criminal side. And for my last 23 years, I was a criminal agent for them. So I was never a supervisor. Just it would be similar to being a detective for a local police department.
Okay. Now, you told Ms. Stout during the interview that you had been contacted by the main office for the FBI and told to go do this interview with her in South Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes, I think I told her I was asked by the Colorado Springs office to come investigate initially and then also to go out to South Carolina.
Okay. Whose decision was it to you be the one that goes in and does this almost 5-hour interview?
I think it was up in the air early, whether it would be El Paso investigator and myself or just myself. And
Hi, Court.
I don't remember how it came just to be me, but it ended up just being me.
Okay.
Thank God.
And
it
have
was.
you done a lot of these interviews over your career?
Yes.
Oh, come on, Cook.
Now, before we got into the audio videotape interview, we were listening to some additional phone calls with Gannon's father and Miss Stout.
Hi, Cash.
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall in one of these interviews, it looks like it was February 19th, 2020. It began about 12:10 p.m. Do you recall that interview that was recorded?
Yes, briefly.
Okay. And were you there for that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
Do you
for
remember at the end of that conversation, it said Letecia said that her guess would be that Gannon was not in Colorado. When asked how she knew, she said, quote, because Tisha didn't hurt him, didn't dispose of him or anything like that. Okay. It goes on. So Tisha was in Colorado with nothing, and you guys have run up all these places where y'all think I did or whatever. And you haven't found Gannon. Do you recall her at one point referring to herself as Tisha?
I do.
Okay. Now, generally, somebody in that conversation would say I, but in this situation, she's referring to herself in the third person.
Correct.
Okay. Did you find that a little bit off?
Not really.
Okay. Well, what if I started questioning you right here instead of saying, I've got a couple questions for you, Mr. Grusing? What if I said, Mr. Cook has a couple questions for you, Mr. Grusing? Mr. Cook would like to proceed. Would that be a little bit off?
It depends on who you are and how well I knew you.
So it'd be kind of strange if I was up here cross-examining you and I was using the third person to refer to myself.
It would be unusual, yes.
Okay, so what Cook is highlighting, right. So the reason that Cook is highlighting it is to try to push the cash. We're watching a cross-examination of Special FBI Agent John Grusing in the trial of Letecia Stauch. Hey, HmmKay, there you are. So the reason that Cook defense is highlighting the part in the interrogation where Letecia says, Letecia did not do anything bad, is to try to push the NGRI defense of she's suffering from dissociative identity disorder. Tisha didn't do anything can be used to push that whoever was talking in that moment was an alter, not Letecia herself. In reality, the reason, in my unprofessional opinion, and I'm sure a lot of us will agree, that Letecia has done that because we've seen her do that quite often in the interrogation. She did it, and in the pretext call, she did it. It's a distancing technique. We know she is indeed guilty, and she did indeed kill Gannon, brutally murdered him. So we've talked a lot about recently how your body does not naturally want to lie. Your body will fight you when you are lying. So it is much easier for her to put distance between what she is saying and the lie by referring to her in third person. Tisha didn't do anything, not because she's in an altered state with a different personality, versus it's easier for her to lie in third person than it is that I did not hurt him. I did not kill Gannon. Tisha did not do any of it. That's how she does it. But Cook is trying to use it, which makes sense if you're going for DID, right? It's a good window to use. And thank you so much, Mindy, for 7 months. Hi, guys. Missed you. We've missed you, too. Thank you so much. It's lovely seeing you.
Mr. Cook has some more questions for you.
Sounds good.
Couldn't help it. Now, with respect to the Google searches we talked about, or you talked about with Letecia, I don't like my stepson, you know, you recall those and
I do.
discussing that with Mr. Allen. Were you able to pull up the content that was retrieved during these searches, or what is the scope of what information you were able to pull up in this metadata or whatever it is?
So yeah, I was quite a bit removed from that. We had a computer specialist that was looking into her phone and would send us sanitized results.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't see what the kickback was or
That's correct.
anything. You just could see the search. Okay. And you don't know when these searches were made.
I
correct?
don't.
Okay. And that's not because you didn't look. It's just because that information was not saved.
Yeah, I was told they didn't know when you're talking about when her actual search happened on her phone.
Yeah. When she, Googled in, I don't like my stepson. What do I do about it? Like if that was in 2018 or was it?
Correct. It was no timestamp date was given to me for those searches.
Okay. So some of these searches could have been January 27th of 2020, and some of them could have been in 2018, or some of them could have been actually after January 27th.
Correct.
But before the phone was seized.
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of any searches coming back saying, what do I do if I don't like my stepson? And the answer being stab him 17 times, plunge and force, strike him 4 times in the head and shoot him in the head?
No.
Wow. So you're going to try to minimize the fact that she is portraying, oh, I love Gannon. I would never do anything to hurt him. No motive, no motive. Yet she Google searched, I don't like my stepson. And you're going to make it seem, well, it's not like it gave her a play-by-play, right, of how she brutally murdered him. No, that's crazy. Come on.
Strike him 4 times in the head and shoot him in the head?
No.
It'd be some pretty bad advice, wouldn't it?
That would not be good advice. You're right.
Now, sometimes, how many different stories did Miss Stauch tell? I hear at one point you said you were asking her on the video and told her that she's told you about 7 different stories. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I think I was throwing out an approximate number.
Okay. And then Mr. Allen asked you one time, and he said you can't even count how many stories she gave.
Yes, because he brought up variations of stories, which would legitimately count as another story. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But we're not talking about an infinite number of stories. I mean, you could go back and
Correct. We
basically
could
there
count
was-
them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were, between 5 and 10 main theme stories we're dealing with.
That sounds correct.
And one interview, something may change a little bit, but there was 5 to 10 main theme stories.
Sounds right.
Okay.
Me too, Little Red.
Now, during some of the interviews, Miss Stauch or Letecia, She seemed like she made a lot of eye contact, was pretty engaged near the beginning. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, I guess if you want to consider it more eye contact than the rest of the interrogation, but she folded like a literal lawn chair and she was facing the wall. So yeah, let's give a little bit of wiggle room when you say maintained eye contact, shall we?
And then there was a part for about 30 minutes or so in the middle where she didn't even look up. She hung her head the whole time. Do you recall that part?
Yes.
And her voice was a lot lower. You could hardly even hear her. Do you recall that?
Yes.
He's trying to imply that she switched to a different alter. Again, pushing the dissociative identity disorder, also previously known as split personality disorder. Okay, so you have the alters. He's trying to imply that she literally transformed into some type of Maria Sanchez that was not Letecia, who you were speaking to, versus an alter of her. So carry on, Cook. Okay.
Is
Hey, Debbie.
almost 5 hours a long time to be in an interview room like that?
Yes,
It
Lisa.
just depends on the situation.
What was your goal when you went into this interview room with Letecia?
Seriously.
Was it to find out what Gannon was? Was it to get a confession to be used to prosecute her later? Both?
Oh,
I mean, what was the actual game plan when you went in?
Yeah, probably both. I would say primarily is to find what happened to Gannon. And as she had spoken with Al on the phone, that she had given hints or clues. And even if we were to get some of those, that would be worth the 5 hours.
And would you say that you came away from this interview as far as getting the confession and being able to find Gannon more or less empty-handed?
It went about as I expected it would.
And you weren't able to get enough information or any information out to be able to locate Gannon?
That's correct.
come on, Cook.
Can I have just a second, Your Honor?
Me?
Really? You had
That's
one
all they have
fucking
for you.
job, dude. That better not be it. Hey, dreadful artist. Come on. He always needs to go to freaking Tortellini. Yeah, psychedelic relic.
I think that's all I have.
No!
you, Mr.
Look, even Werner smirked. Are you kidding me? Hours and hours, days. Look at even our Fox judge here, recovery addict. Are you kidding me? Days on the stand. Hours and hours and hours. And you had, so Tisha referred to herself in third person. Is that true? Do you know anything about closed loop cruise lines? All right, I think defense rests. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you,
Right.
Mr. Grusing.
Thank you.
You guys, we do have a lot of people in chat. Let's try to keep the conversation as on topic as possible.
She was
obviously when
indefensible.
it's a little quieter, we can branch out a little
I
bit.
know,
but let's
Sky,
try to
love
just keep it on the
big
case. Otherwise, it's
buckets,
really hard to
son. He's
follow.
Mr. Grusing,
marinara.
you were asked about the references that the defendant used third person to say her name.
Yes.
Have you been around other people who are self-absorbed who also talk about themselves in the third person?
I have.
I love it. Did you see? Oh shit. Did you see that? Did you realize what he just did?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Like a boss, Alan comes in And he's like, have you ever also engaged with self-absorbed assholes that talk in the third person? Because this is not a matter of dissociating into an alter. This is a matter of you're dealing with a narcissistic fucking liar who's extremely self-absorbed. Booyah!
Or self-absorbed who also talked about themselves in the third person?
I have.
Does that indicate in your mind any concerns about mental health capacity?
No,
Did that cause you any concern about this defendant as to her mental health capacity?
it did not.
Did it indicate in your mind that she was exhibiting a separate personality
No,
or acting as a separate person?
no.
Yes, they do, Candace.
You were asked about the demeanor change of the defendant in the interview, where in the beginning she's making lots of eye contact, perhaps even almost flirting with you. How would you attribute her demeanor at the beginning?
That's right. That's right. Look at Tortellini's face. Yeah. Tisha, were you flirting with Special FBI Agent John Grusing?
No.
Yes.
No, sir. I mean, John, no.
Yeah, she fucking was. She thought she was going to bring her stanky ass into that very small 4x4 room and flirt with him. How embarrassing. Like, you can't see because she's going all Samara with her hair covering her face. That is another tactic to make her seem smaller, cut off her peripheral vision. She's escaping the room while still being in the room. But how embarrassing.
Flirting with you. How would you attribute her demeanor at the beginning?
Conversational. I would even say hopeful on her part that she might be able to provide me with a story that I might take away.
Yep.
Potentially hoping to manipulate your involvement in the investigation.
Leading.
Yes.
I
State,
know-
you can rephrase.
Sure.
Her Aunt Brenda
Any other indicators for you?
comes from, I'm not sure. I don't want to give you the wrong answer. Kurt, I'd have to go look up with what Aunt Brenda said on a call. But as far as I know, Letecia herself, yes, it's in her bloodline, but I never heard Letecia talk about it.
Yes, state, you can rephrase.
Sure.
Thank you,
Any
Pat.
other indicators for you as to what she may have been trying to get done there?
Yes, as I told her throughout, she was more concerned about what I was thinking than telling me what was happening. And she continued to do that throughout the interview. And I continued to admonish her to just tell me what she knew, not what she thought I was thinking.
Okay. You were asked at the very end of the cross-examination, did you come out empty-handed in this interview? Did you actually get useful information out of this interview?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what useful information you got out of it?
Well, Letecia continued to exhibit no concern for Gannon as she did in the phone calls with Al. Anytime I would try to speak with her about Gannon, an 11-year-old being missing, however I could phrase that, she would turn it back around to herself. Even at the end, she was saying about, instead of him being found, it's her being exonerated and people would be sorry. Everything focused around her. And that's why her referencing her in the third person was not a surprising thing to me. As far as coming out empty-handed, her not being able to articulate a last image of Gannon was very indicative that image was awful. And I told her that multiple times.
Exactly.
So to me, I didn't come away with a confession, but I came away with more of a certainty that something really bad had happened to Gannon and that she had witnessed it. As you saw, I probably asked her 30 times, maybe more, about her last image and gave her multiple outs. And the other thing that she kept not wanting to accept is that this was an accident. And normally in a case like this, a person who has last been with a loved one, whether it's accident or something homicidal, they will accept accident, and she would not accept that.
And then what about demonstrating her ability to recall? Were you able to develop that as well?
Her ability to recall
Information.
Yes, anything that was not inculpatory towards the disappearance and homicide, she could recall easily. Dates, times, movements, homework, those sorts of things. It was pretty easy for her to articulate those.
Was it your perception that she was refusing to recall data as to what actually happened again?
Yes.
Was that helpful towards the investigation?
Yes.
Were you able to develop information about her intellect, her ability to communicate and that sort of thing?
Yes.
And why is that helpful towards the investigation?
That she is a articulate, intelligent, perceptive, and intuitive person. And that also helped her evade law enforcement while we as a team were trying to find out what happened to Gannon while she was even still in Colorado. Just seeing her organized thought patterns there and how adept she was at shifting and deceiving and using some sort of alternative mechanism, it showed us that she was able to carry out what we thought she was able to carry out, and that is hide Gannon when there were multiple people looking for him.
What about the her lack of any prior mental health concerns? Was that helpful towards the investigation?
Yes.
Why?
He's being fair. He's trying to be fair.
Because we saw that she knew what she was doing. And we saw that even in her own words, she made this a 3-day ordeal, saying it started on Saturday, it went through Sunday, and there was all sorts of planning and premeditation involved, whether it's the call in to the school or not using her phone, using Gannon's phone. She explained to us that this was a prolonged event.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Do any of the jurors have any
Jury
questions for Mr.
questions.
Grusing? Looks like we have one. Just
Yeah.
write it down. Pass
Just
it forward.
one.
Okay, as is normal
Just
in
one.
Colorado.
Okay. Counsel
the
approach,
Supreme
please.
Court, we're going to take this angle right here. They're going to block our view in just a minute. But yes, the jurors can ask questions in this trial. They submit the questions.
should in
question,
every
something they can
trial.
ask. And also, I'll
I'm
ask them. We've
surprised
had
there's
some
only
very
one
insightful
question.
His audio is off. We're not hearing the audio. He's left his mic off.
No, what was the question?
Apparently, we don't get any audio.
Oh, mother fucking moose knuckle.
The judge left his mic off since.
Oh, Werner, I love you, baby, but come
This is
on.
bad.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
In this case, with that, if I can have everyone ready to go at 10:35, we should be able to start at that time. All rise for the jury, please.
So I did not see the witness answer a question.
Look at
Does
Tisha.
Letecia have something in her
God, she's
sleeve?
covered in her hair.
Did she just put something in her sleeve?
Probably it's Tisha, dude.
So the judge is the one that does control the mic in this
Thank you. May all
courtroom.
be seated. Record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. Is there anything we need to take up outside the presence of the jury at this point in time?
No, Judge. What time did you say to come back?
10:35. Defense, anything from defense? Mr.
Guys.
Cellini or Mr. Cook?
Nothing.
Okay, court will be in recess. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Okay, well,
so
they're in
let's-
recess.
We're going to come back. I don't know who our next witness is.
What trial, so we don't get testimony interrupted.
All right, for the
His
jury,
jury.
please.
You guys figure it out. You do them first.
Look at Tisha. She's so square.
Was it not the business? Did I
Yeah.
get the other name right? Wasn't she the one that attacked her lawyer in jail or in the courtroom? I might have my cases mixed up.
I don't know, Artemis. I just said it. I don't even know what it means. Hi, Janice. All right, who we gonna get?
Everybody okay?
Stop smirking.
Thank you. May all be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury is not present in the courtrum. Prosecution claim, please.
The jury is
Thank you, Your
present.
Honor. We would call Special Agent David Donati.
Werner, what's up with you? He said the jury's not present in the courtroom. The jury is Werner, I love you, baby, but you're having a rough day. I don't know what's going on. It's probably all this Tisha. All this Tisha shit's in his head, and he doesn't even know what's up.
Please.
The jury is.
Record should reflect the jury is not present in the courtroom. Prosecution claim, please.
The jury is.
Thank you, Your
present.
Honor. We would call Special Agent David Donati.
David did
While
not.
Mr. Donati's walking up to be sworn in, we've already put People's Exhibits 281 through 289 in the witness stand. Their photographs.
So somebody might have tripped in the witness stand or something like that.
Sorry, Special Agent Donati, if you would raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear affirm the testimony about this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Doing fine.
Thank you. Good. Will you please introduce yourself to the jury and then spell your name for the record?
My name is David Donati, spelled D as in David, Onati. I'm a special agent with the FBI.
How long have you been with the FBI?
For 12 years now.
What are your responsibilities with the FBI?
Well, I've worked in a lot of different places. Currently, I work in the Minneapolis division doing criminal investigations. I started off my career in Lander, Wyoming, which is an RA or resident agency on the Wind River Indian Reservation. I spent 3.5 years there. And then I came to Colorado Springs and spent about 5 years here.
What were the years that you were in Colorado Springs?
2015, probably from April 2015 to September of 2020.
All right. What kind of cases have you investigated?
I've done a multitude of things, everything mostly in the violent crime aspect, everything from bank robberies to missing persons, homicide investigations, kidnappings, bank robberies.
Okay. What kind of training do you have that allows you to be a FBI agent?
To be an FBI agent, you attend the New Agent Academy, which is about 20 weeks at Quantico, Virginia. There we learn a series of different things, everything from interviewing to collecting of evidence to all the other duties that a special agent does. I've also attended other training during my service with the FBI, which is helps you to be better at your job and continuing training as collecting evidence and interviewing people.
Aw.
As it relates to the case that we're here for, how did you become involved in the investigation into Gannon Stauch's disappearance?
Early on in the investigation, we were contacted by the El Paso County Sheriff's Office about a missing juvenile, and they asked our office to assist. And at the time, I was assigned as the case agent to help with that assist.
Hey, Kim.
Did you at some point assist removing some items from a VW Tiguan?
Yes, I believe that was on February 7th of 2020.
So let's talk about the Tiguan, at least as far as you knew it. Did you understand that to be associated with the defendant in the case?
Yes, I understood it to be the vehicle that that she owned and that she drove.
What were you tasked to do as it relates to that particular vehicle?
On that particular vehicle, I was tasked to assist. I had other people that helped me collect the what is called the telematics system from the vehicle. And that's several different components that has the ability to store data of the vehicle while it's being operated.
Specifically, what kind of data were you looking for or hoping to get out of the telematics?
Well, every vehicle is different. Every manufacturer is different. But we do know that these systems do store everything from dates and times to actual GPS coordinates. And some vehicles do also store things like when the vehicle was in motion, when the vehicle was stopped, different systems on the car running, things like that. So, like I said, depending on what that vehicle manufacturer and that data consisted of, it can tell you a lot. And some vehicles, it doesn't tell you much.
Tell us about the
what does that process look like removing the telematics from a vehicle?
So the telematics systems can be stored in several different places.
If you guys are okay, I'm just going to jump through the fluff and get to what happened with Tisha.
I told there were 3 items from the vehicle, and that involved removing some sections of the dash to get to those.
Do you yourself then analyze those components to get this data that you're looking for or hoping to get?
No, that is then what I do is I collect those components as evidence.
Direct your attention to the photographs that I put on the.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, it's her Tiguan.
So the photographs of the Volkswagen Tiguan that I believe to be owned and driven by the defendant. It was located in the El Paso County's vehicle bay where they store their evidence.
And are those photographs fair and accurate representations as to what you saw and in the removal process of this infotainment center?
Absolutely, yes. I actually took these photographs as we removed them from the vehicle.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, I'd move for admission and permission to publish 281 through 289.
Defense?
No objection.
281 through 289 will be admitted.
Thank you. We're connected back over here now, Judge.
We should be showing these pictures here in just a moment. I'll see if I can take them full screen. Depends how clear they are. Maybe.
And to be project pointer there in that to either one that you want to use. So we've got 281 up behind you. So let's look at the left side first. That's what looks like a shipping label. What is that?
That is exactly what you said. It's a FedEx shipping label where I package the items, use the FedEx computer system and entered the information on where I wanted to send it to. And I believe the date on that was February 10th.
I'm just gonna jump a little bit to see what the importance is here. Thank you, Candace. Candace sent a super sticker. That's very kind of you, very much appreciated. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. You love me. You really love me.
I don't want to jinx it, but I'm so happy I'm able to highlight comments and do my little clips right now because I haven't been able to do it in like weeks. Thank you so much, Candace. Are you guys good if I kind of just jump through it to see what the importance is?
To collect items and then ship them out a couple.
Then I can package it up and send it
up. You're waiting that shipment process.
No, there's not.
Okay. What's in 282?
Okay.
In this picture, we're more centered on this, the glove compartment area. And this would be the information electronic control module that will be removed. It sits right here. It has kind of a plastic cover, but once we remove it, I think there's another photograph of that.
When you're going through this process, are you basically just gaining access to the thing and then unplugging it and pulling it out?
Yeah, there's basically that's it. In some situations, like around a display module, there's molding that comes on everybody's dash that is popped out or removed. That's usually in by clips. Every once in a while, there's a screw or something like that that needs to be removed.
And then just so that we're understanding what's happening in this photograph, why does it appear that there's white powder on everything in there?
This
like fucking
vehicle
Pablo
had
Escobar fucking sneezed in this fucking car, man. Hey, Caleb.
gone through a previous evidence collection, and I
Thank
forget
you,
what the name
lovely.
of that is, but that's like a luminol.
Blue Star?
Is Blue Star.
Okay.
That's used to
Congrats,
under
whoever
lights
got
to
that.
detect
Thank you
evidence
so
of
much.
other types of evidence,
Hi,
like
Riley.
blood or other things like that.
So is that basically just the residue of the Blue Star, what it looks like once it dries?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
283?
And this box here, the front is what you saw in the other picture would be on this side of this silver box. And then all the cables come like very similar to a computer component. It'd be unplugged and pulled out.
Did you in fact unplug this unit and pull it out? And that's one of the things that was shipped off to Quantico, Virginia?
Yes.
All right. 284?
And this is the item sitting on the bench top just to get a better focused picture of.
Same item that was in.
Same item that we've just talked about.
Congrats,
Okay, perfect.
Nicole.
285?
This is the infotainment display. This is usually on vehicles where your radio is seen, or if you have a backup camera, things like that. So this piece that is removed here was the venting above it, and the piece that we are collecting as evidence is this display system. You see a knob right here.
Okay. 286?
Oh,
This is the back of that unit.
That's amazing.
The face would be facing the gear shift right there.
So is that on the face that's sort of facing down towards the gear shift, or is that basically that touch screen that's in a lot of modern cars?
Exactly. It's a touch screen that, like I said, usually allows you to change the to see, but this would be the emergency call module. It is located inside the dash behind the steering wheel.
Okay, well, what
You'll
happened?
see that same item.
Side.
It's the driver's
he
side
just
of
gonna
the vehicle.
Show how
Kind
they
of back behind the steering wheel. So you had to remove some components of the dash to get to it.
And then that's should
Oh,
be
yeah.
288. That's
you guys,
up there
this
now. So
witness is boring. Let's get
takes the
started.
stand. Would it be possible for defense tonight to approach just briefly?
He was just
Sure.
showing
The judge always
how
says
they
yes
get
on
the
this one, so we're
data
gonna
by
take a
removing
quick
it from the
peek
car.
right
That was it.
over. Well, let's go.
Ain't nobody got time for that. I'll fall asleep. We didn't start the fire.
Let's see who else is in court right now.
Who that?
I think that's our next witness right there who's waiting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank
You can see
sir.
Al briefly now that the man in the gray suit, Al's leaning over talking
Yep,
to
with his
I believe,
wife.
current wife,
It's his wife, Melissa.
who's been with him pretty much every day in court.
Right. Agent Delkowski, if you would raise your right hand, please, sir. Step on up a
Yeah, you
little
can
bit.
come right up in here.
It's all right. You swear affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Never heard someone say "I will" before to that question, but I will. Judge accepted it.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Will you please introduce yourself to our jury and then spell your name for the court reporter?
My name is Dwight Falkowski. Last name is spelled Falkofske.
Mr. Falkowski, who do you work for?
I work for the FBI.
What do you do for the FBI?
Oh my God, that reminds me.
I
of
work as an
Austin
automotive.
Powers. Who do you work for? If you know, you know. But all right.
Forensic specialist. And I want to expound on that.
Yes, please.
So that involves taking parts from vehicles, cars that have been
Oh, is it going to be the
that
same
are brought to
thing?
us, and we and I have I don't have the list of them in front of me, but there were four pieces from the vehicle. I knew that some pieces that we had worked on were not valuable in extracting data from, but there were one in particular, the infotainment system from that car was probably the primary one we looked at.
Okay. When you say 4 pieces, does that mean that one of the modules had an SD card in it or something like that, that expanded it out to 4?
No.
Okay.
The 4.
Yeah, like FBI
Okay.
mechanic.
And then as it relates to your work, did you have 2 different efforts towards gathering this information? One that was an initial uncertified basically result, and then a second that was more in-depth?
Yes. So I'll go ahead and explain the situation around that, if that's okay.
Yes.
Location, that is accurate. So it took us an additional approximate year or so to finish that validation process.
Okay. So when you have that initial effort that you get that unvalidated data, what did you do with it, that unvalidated data?
We provided it as preliminary data back to the field.
Okay. And then that secondary effort that you mentioned was roughly a year down the road.
That's correct. And there were also data on the system over time.
The data that you provided to the investigation proven wrong based on the secondary release of data.
No, that data proved accurate.
Okay. And fruitful information towards this investigation. What was that particular device?
The head unit. There was 4 devices. I believe it's the item that ends with 04. Is that?
Well, you're the expert. I can't.
Okay.
I don't know where it came from. All I know is it magically appears.
All right, give me a moment. Let me pull out some records and so I can find what we're looking.
From Colorado Springs to see if there was going to be any useful information on all of them.
Yes, we evaluated each piece.
And then through that evaluation, did you determine, based on what you've already said, that only one was going to provide any useful location data?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's talk about that one then.
Okay.
Which particular item are we talking about that provided useful location data for this investigation?
Okay. It was the information ECM, that's electronic control module, basically the head unit that I explained before, from a 2019 Volkswagen Tiguan.
Are you guys okay if I see who the next witness is? Because I understand it's important for trial, but like rewatching this, these are the witnesses that, like, unless you're giving me a play-by-play on where her Tiguan went and stuff,
investigative
I don't really
arm
need to go over it.
or area.
Yes. So this case, at this point in the stage, you've only got a binary image with no understanding of what the data means.
Okay.
And so there was processing performed at this point.
I understand they have to explain how they extracted the data and everything, but
Just seeing which
I don't
method
need
was
to see it
gauged.
again, unless
At the
you
time, that might have been done. 12th, 2020.
Okay.
I think we're gonna skip to the next day, actually, though.
And preliminary data that we provided at that time as well.
Hold on, let's see. Let's see Cook for a second.
And how is
Okay.
the preliminary data different from the final data that you got at a year later?
Okay.
So the preliminary data was what we initially found during a compressed timeline to try to locate a missing child. There was it over that year.
Okay. Were there any discrepancies or?
Okay. So hold on. Let me just go to the next one. All right. Let's see. Let's see. I'm waiting for the Google searches. I know the Google search guy's coming.
All rise for the jury, please.
All right. What we got? We got Tisha. Why does she look? God, who's picking out her undersized outfits? Looking all like a Roblox character. Is today X marks the spot?
Hey,
We're looking for the
everyone,
hair part.
everyone has their fly down occasionally.
No, it's
It
the same
happens to
day. It's
best
the
of us.
afternoon. It's
At least she caught it.
Six was 40 left. It just walked up and down. Got warm.
Colorado Springs is.
Thank you. May all be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358 People versus Letecia Stauch. Should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Prosecution, call your next witness.
Yeah, are people call Sherry Holes to the stand?
Sherry Holes. Sorry. That was
Sherry
Ms. Holes, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, ma'am.
Sherry Holes.
You swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Backpack Lawyer is carrying the biggest book I've ever seen.
Mhm.
It's a massive binder. And he gave it to Letecia to read, it looks like. Here, that'll keep you busy. Read this one. a big book.
Good afternoon, Ms. Holes. How are you doing?
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first and last name?
Yes, my name is Sherry Holes. It's Sherrie, last of Holes, Holes.
And what is your occupation?
I'm currently employed as a forensic serologist and DNA analyst at the Colorado Springs Metro Crime Lab.
And how long have you been employed such as?
I've been employed in that role approximately 4.5 years at the CSPD Crime Lab.
And what does a forensic serologist
Stop
do?
you for just a moment.
Oh, sure.
Can you move that so that it's on its side so it doesn't block the view of those two jurors right there? What
forensic serologist does?
Yeah, what's a forensic
Yes, a forensic serologist examines evidence for the presence of biological fluids. Specifically in our lab, we look for blood, semen, saliva, and also we examine for other potential biological evidence that may be suitable for DNA analysis.
Okay.
And what kind of experience of training do you have in the field of forensic serology?
Well, my training, California, I was forensic RFU, just going through by a second qualified analyst.
Keep track each time you do one and say.
All right.
I usually average about 100 cases for serology a year. So over the course of almost 15 years, it's well over 1,000.
That was a bad attempt.
Miss Holes in her damn
Sorry.
fluids. Oh God, we're horrible here. We're horrible.
Have you testified as an
love
expert in
you
the
all.
field of forensic serology in the past?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times?
I've been qualified as an expert in this area approximately 40 times previously.
Oh, nice.
And are those both here and in California?
That's correct.
At this time, we'd ask that the court qualify Ms. Holes as an expert in the field of forensic serology and allow her to render opinions in that field.
Harry Bowles, stop it, Emily.
No objection to her being qualified.
witness will be so qualified? Go ahead.
So I want to kind of focus on your role as a forensic serologist here in Colorado Springs, the Metro Crime Lab. Were you asked to conduct several forensic serological exams?
Serological, correct, yeah.
In this particular case, the disappearance of Gannon Stauch.
Yes, I was.
Could you give the jury a rundown on how you come about or how you became involved in this investigation?
So when we get a request from an agency, in this case, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, typically there's a couple of things that happen. One is they will write a cover letter with a description of the pertinent case details and some of the items of evidence that they would like examined. And then also typically there's a meeting between the submitting agency and our crime lab supervisor, our DNA technical supervisor, and they make decisions as to these are the items that we will accept and which what are the priorities on which items will be tested.
And so is that common in any criminal investigation that the investigating agency will submit a letter asking you to perform analysis on certain items of evidence?
I can't speak to how other laboratories and agencies do it, but that is what we request, just so that we have some background knowledge of, it helps us decide of the case, so that helps us decide which evidence are best going to answer the questions being posed in the case and what is most probative, in other words, offering proof in the case circumstances.
And is it often in large investigations that you may actually meet with the detectives or other investigative officers to talk about what should be tested and why and that kind of thing?
Yes, definitely. They try to do meetings before the first request comes in, but often in a large investigation, there can be several meetings that occur over time as more investigative details come to light or more questions are being answered in the case. And that is what happened in this particular case.
Can you describe that for the jury? Why did that happen in this particular case?
I was not involved in the actual meetings that were occurring. That was our crime lab manager and the DNA supervisor. But from my understanding, as more information was coming to light in the course of the investigation, more questions were being asked, more evidence was being collected on multiple different occasions, which then was coming into the lab with a request for examination.
And when you conduct your examinations, how do you get your results back to the investigating agency?
So once we have, and when I have issued a report and it's gone through the 2 layers of review, it is then released to the investigating detective, the lead detective on the case from one of our administrative staff.
And did you do several reports with regards to this investigation?
Yes, in this particular investigation, I released 7 reports.
And do you know why there were 7 different reports on, I'm assuming, 7 different dates?
Again, I think additional items were being collected, additional questions were being asked as additional evidence was being collected and during the course of the investigation. So they didn't have all of the evidence or even all of the information from that very first request. So again, as they were having more meetings with our lab management, it was decisions were being made that, we need additional items tested.
And so what would be your role, just so you can explain to the jury, in the process of doing your analysis with regards to evidence in this particular case?
My role was to examine the items of evidence for the presence of, mostly for the presence of blood, and then also for other potential biological material that may be there, and consolidate any swabs or cuttings that I take, as well as documentation of the evidence. Documentation is done through photography and from note-taking of my observations of the evidence. And then any samples that I deem would be suitable to go on for DNA analysis, I'm then consolidating into what we call a DNA packet. DNA packet is just an envelope that has numerous tubes that I've prepared. The tubes have little pieces of cuttings or little swabbed out.
Or DNA packet, or whether or not you create a DNA packet.
I am looking for blood. That's always starts with a visual exam. If I see staining that is consistent with visually looks like blood, we then do a chemical color test. It's a presumptive test for blood, meaning it's not a confirmatory test for blood, but it does indicate the presence of that. If I have a stain area that looks like blood, reacts to that chemical presumptive test, I typically will take a small cutting or a swabbing of that stain, trying to preserve additional stain, not take the whole sample when I can. And then that would go into a test tube. That test tube then goes into the DNA packet. I also do what we call trace swabbing, and trace swabbing is areas that may contain DNA cells or cells that have DNA. So many of our tests are so sensitive now in DNA analysis that we don't actually need to have a stain present. We can also get a DNA profile from just a very small number of just cells. Cells can be deposited just through touch or from wearing clothing, that kind of thing.
To the part where
Performed a serological examination on those items.
Yes, I did.
And would you also receive swabs from various areas of a residence 6627 Mandan Drive here in Colorado Springs?
Yes, I did.
And would you, when you received all these items, were they all sealed in a protective way so that no one touched them in between the last person who opened the item?
Yes.
And rather than go through that with each item we go through, every item you looked at was sealed when you got it?
Yeah, if anything is not in a sealed condition, I note it, but I do not remember receiving any items in an unsealed manner, no.
And when you create a DNA packet, do you also seal that item and preserve it in a way so that the DNA will not be impacted?
Yes.
Yes, I do. My envelope that I create that has all the little tubes from the cuttings and swabs, that gets an evidence tape seal once it's ready to go forward, and it's stored frozen for further analysis.
And is that why we don't admit them here in court, because they need to stay in the freezer, that kind of thing, to preserve that DNA?
Yeah, they are best maintained in a frozen manner, and literally it's just an envelope with the tubes inside. So it's best just not to bring it to court at all.
So to your right are a series of exhibits. And I'd like to go through these one by one, as painfully as that sounds, but I think we can go through it fairly quickly. The first exhibit that you'll see in that box on that table is exhibit 182. Could you pull that out and tell us what that is?
Yes. This is labeled as the toothbrush belonging to Gannon Stauch.
And do you need to open that to see that that's the toothbrush in there?
I can see it from the bottom. It's been partially opened.
Okay. And when you received that, was it sealed, of course?
Yes, it was.
What did you do with that particular toothbrush?
This toothbrush was submitted as a possible secondary reference standard when we need to make DNA comparisons. We need a reference standard or a known sample from an individual. This was submitted as a possible secondary reference. Gannon was not present at the time, so they have a toothbrush, which hopefully would have his DNA on it. So I did some swabbing of the toothbrush. I also took some cuttings of the toothbrush bristles as well.
And was that done on February 8th of 2020?
The report was issued on February 8th, that work, yes.
It says that the request date was February 5th, 2020. So did you do the actual testing sometime in between those two dates?
Yes.
So Gannon's body had not been discovered yet.
Correct.
So you created a DNA packet for this item?
Not just for this item, but yes, this would be one of the items, those little cuttings of the toothbrush bristles and the swabs, those would go into test tubes and be included in the DNA packet with other samples that I collected.
Now, earlier you testified that you're also a forensic DNA analyst. Is there a reason why you didn't do DNA on this particular item versus creating a packet and sending it on?
Yeah, at this point in time, I was not a qualified DNA analyst at the lab here in Colorado Springs. So my only role was to do serology examinations.
So now you can do both, right?
I'm to a certain point in my DNA analysis training that I am qualified to a certain step, but there's always more training to be done.
Did this item and other items go on to Donna Minogue for further DNA testing?
Yes.
And I don't know if we want to just stick that back in the box, just that so it doesn't get cluttered up there. Or that works too. Okay. The next item in there is People's Exhibit 184. You could pull that out and tell us what that is.
Yes, DNA standards for Gannon's biological father.
And do you need to open that to see what's in there?
It's partially open. There's, I can take a look at this. Okay, there's just some swabs that are in here.
Are those buccal swabs from Mr. Eugene Stauch, also Al Stauch?
Yes, buccal swabs are swabs that are taken from the inside of the cheeks and the gum area, and those are taken as a reference standard or a known DNA standard that will be later on used for comparison purposes.
I guess while we're doing that, let's pull out 185 as well. What is People's Exhibit 185?
DNA standards for Gannon's biological mother, Landon. Okay. Yes, this also contains 2 sets of swabs.
And so those buccal swabs as well from Gannon's mother?
Yes, these are buccal swabs also collected as reference standards from Gannon's mother.
Now, we're doing this together, but I'm assuming when you conduct the test, you're doing things individually, right? You're not mixing and matching items of evidence?
So we have yes, that's correct. We have a very set process on how we examine items of evidence in the lab. We always, before we even start any examination, we do a thorough cleaning of our workspace using bleach. We know that DNA, because it's so sensitive, our testing procedures are so sensitive, they are prone to contamination. So we have to be very careful, make sure we don't leave our own DNA on any evidence. So that involves wearing protective face coverings and hand coverings and gloves, hair coverings as well. And then we also want to make sure that there's no contaminating DNA on our work surfaces. So those are always bleached down in between every single item of evidence. We always lay out a fresh piece of like white butcher paper. So the evidence actually doesn't even touch any of our work surfaces. Any of our implements are cleaned as well. And then we always look at the order in which we look at items of evidence is also important. We try to look at evidence items that may have potentially low amounts of DNA before we would look at evidence items that have high amounts of DNA, something that would be very bloody, would have an expected high amount of DNA. we wouldn't want that to contaminate our work surfaces at all. So the order in which we examine is important. And then lastly, we always look at reference samples last after looking at all the other evidence items.
And with regards to People's Exhibit 184 and 185, what did you do exactly to create a DNA packet for those two buccal swabs?
So the buccal swabs, individually, of course, one by one, examining those. My role was just to take a portion of one of the buccal swabs. I essentially it's like a long Q-tip, like a Q-tip head with a long stick. That's what the swab is. And I just take a sterile scalpel and I just portion off one part of the swab. That goes into a sterile tube, which is then labeled with the associated barcode number that we've given it. Then that tube that I've created goes into the DNA packet.
And I'm referencing your February 8th, 2020 report, if you need to refresh your recollection. But do you recall looking at a piece of tan carpet that was rolled up inside of another piece of carpet that was found in the storage room at 6627 Mandan Drive?
Yes.
And what were you looking at in regards to that carpet?
So I was looking for the possible presence of blood.
Did you see with your eye the presence of possible blood?
I did.
Okay, Stacey.
And what did you do upon seeing that?
So once I visually see staining that looks like it may be blood, I then do the chemical color presumptive test, which was positive for the presence of blood on the carpet. And then I do, actually on the back of that rolled up piece of carpet, I then swabbed a portion of that potential blood staining. So that portion of that swab can go in the test tube and then into the DNA packet for further analysis.
And do you have People's Exhibit 386 there next on the list?
Yes.
What is People's Exhibit 386?
Let's see. This is 3 sets of possible blood swabs.
And what are those blood swabs from? Does it indicate on the
It
envelope?
does, yes. I'm using, these were identified using placards.
Really? Okay. Thank you, guys. I'm getting rid of StreamYard anyway because they jump. Heads up, anybody who uses StreamYard, they, unbeknownst to us, got bought out by another company, and they're going from $25 a month to $50 a month. So I'm getting rid of this StreamYard shit anyway. I just don't know what to go to. But I'm blaming it on StreamYard because ever since StreamYard gave me this bubble, the audio goes out. Yeah, they've doubled their like $50 a month is insanity. Insanity. Okay. Mother fudger.
A, B, and C collected from the stairs and the floor of the garage.
And so what are these? Are these Q-tips or am I being too general here?
It's very much like a Q-tip. Their swabs come in sterile packaging. So typically there's a sterile wrapper, and within there are 2 swabs that they are, when our crime scene investigators are collecting these, they would open up the sterile packaging, take out these 2 swabs, which look like a Q-tip, but they have long wooden sticks. And then once they're finished,
I don't need to know.
I'm gonna need to refer to my notes.
Or of your report.
The northern lights were visible.
Actually, inside the outer envelope, inside there was 3 smaller tape sealed manila envelopes. And each of those were labeled with either an A or a B or a C to indicate the placards that they had used during the
Garage.
It says from the stairs and the floor of the garage.
So with regards to these placards, if the jury wanted to, they can look at photographs and go to the garage and look for placards A, B, and C, and that would reference the swabs.
StreamYard, exactly.
Yes, correct.
So what did you find with regards to placards A, B, and C, or at least the swabs from those areas in the garage?
So each of those swabs did show kind of a reddish discoloration, each set, A, B, and C. And I did my chemical presumptive testing for each set of placards A, B, C, and all were presumptive positive for blood.
And did those get forwarded on for DNA analysis?
Yes, portions of those swabs were then cut and placed into test tubes, forwarded for DNA analysis.
Okay. I believe the next one, the Honorable may have permission to look for these.
In the document, one that I'd love to take a look at the fence on.
I do.
Got the carpet.
Do you need to look at that further?
Okay, I do, yes.
Okay. Obviously, 451 is a piece of carpet, right?
Yes, that was a carpet, correct. Carpet 1 is how they designated that one.
So now while I'm up here, what did you find in People's Exhibit 451?
That piece of carpet, there was staining observed on both sides of the carpet that was presumptive positive for blood.
And did you forward that on for DNA analysis?
I did, yes. Or not the whole carpet. I did take samples from the carpet.
Now, People's Exhibit
Look at Pete having
503,
something to say.
in your report, it's labeled as 6839 SW2-01 period 01. Another piece of carpet. Do you recall seeing that?
So let's see. Carpet 1 is that item number that you just described. There was a second carpet, carpet 2, that was 6839 SW2-04.01. Is it a different exhibit that you're referencing?
Yeah, I think 451 was a different one. So let me show you that again so you can look at the lab number.
Okay. So, okay, so that's the -01. That's for carpet 1,
Okay.
right? Okay.
Is the next one carpet 2 then?
The next one should be carpet 2.
So same thing with carpet 2. What did you find on carpet 2, which is People's Exhibit 503?
Yes. Carpet 2 also had visible staining and also reacted positive to the presumptive test for blood.
And did you also look at the foam padding associated with People's Exhibit 503?
Yes, I did.
And what did you find in the foam padding of People's Exhibit 503?
Also, foam padding had visible staining and was positive for the presumptive presence of blood.
The next exhibit in the box to your right should be People's Exhibit 512. Can you pull that out?
Yes.
What do you see in People's Exhibit 512?
This one is labeled as the electrical outlet cover with possible blood. And it says collected from southeast corner of southeast room, child room of basement.
And what did you find after, did you conduct a presumptive test for blood on that item?
I did. I noted some visible staining on the electric outlet cover. I did the presumptive test for blood, which was positive.
And did you perform a DNA kit for that item?
Well, I did do some swabbing of the stained area that could then go on for DNA analysis, yes.
And so do you do that, for instance, if it's a physical piece of item that may have blood on it, would you actually swab the blood versus a CSI at the scene swabbing, like the garage floor that we already talked about?
Yeah, typically when we train CSIs or law enforcement officers, we always suggest that if they can collect the item and bring it into the lab so the serologist can examine it, that's the best practice. If it's an item that is just not movable, such as a garage floor or just too unwieldy to collect, then they do some sampling as well. But we always prefer on anything that can be packaged and brought into the lab, we always would prefer to examine it ourselves and do all of the documentation and collection in the lab.
Is the swabbing the same process though? Same, keep referring to it as a Q-tip. Is there something else I should refer it to?
Yeah, swab or Q-tip, it's the same. We always have these, so we use the sterile package swabs that we open up, and then I label the swab wrapper as to what I'm going to be, what the barcode number is associated with it, and I swab it, I let it dry. Once it's dry, I can then take a portion of the swab, put it into a sterile test tube for DNA analysis.
We can put that back, and then the next item should be People's Exhibit 516. That?
Yes.
And what is People's Exhibit 516?
This is labeled as possible blood swabs collected from electrical socket in southeast corner of southeast room, child room, a basement.
And do you know if that socket is related to People's Exhibit 512, the item we just looked at?
Yes, I believe that they did actually, I'm not sure who actually collected the swab, but that it was swabbed prior to being collected and submitted to the lab.
And what did you do with that particular exhibit?
This particular exhibit, I just noted some coloration on the swab, and then let's see, tested it with the presumptive test for blood, which was positive. I then took a portion of the swab, cut portion of the swab, put it into the test tube for DNA analysis.
The next time I want to talk to you about is in your report. It's People's Exhibit 504, but in your report you label as Carpet 2. Does that refresh your recollection a little bit about the three different carpets you looked at?
Okay, yes. So there was a Carpet 1, there was a Carpet 2, and then there was an unlabeled carpet rug. So,
right.
Okay,
right.
Yes.
So what did you find with regards to People's Exhibit 504, what you have labeled as Carpet 2 in your report?
Again, visible staining was present on the carpet. The chemical presumptive test for blood was positive.
During the candle incident, guys.
And did you forward that on for DNA analysis?
Yes, samples were taken on Carpet 2 from the back side of the carpet. Swabs were taken, cuttings were taken, and even some of the stained fibers were taken, all to be forwarded for DNA analysis.
Did you do the same for the padding that was related to Carpet 2, People's Exhibit 504?
Same process, did a visual exam, noted staining, which was presumptive positive for blood, and again, took a small cutting of the stained area that could be forwarded for DNA analysis.
And with regards to Carpet 1 and Carpet 2, do you know where this carpet came from with regards to 6627 Mandan Drive?
They were labeled as coming from the southeast room, also known as the child's room in the basement.
That been Gannon's room, or did you know?
That's my understanding, that they were from Gannon's room.
Was it your understanding that there was a large area of blood in the corner of his room underneath his bed?
Yes.
I now want to turn to your February 28th, 2020 report. And I believe the next item in the box will be People's Exhibit 371. Is that right?
That's 378.
Do you see 371 up there? Oh, I apologize. 371 is defendant's buccal swabs. Do you recall getting defendant's buccal swabs?
Let's see. Were they part of a kit?
No, they're currently admitted into evidence, but they're in a freezer somewhere.
So I did actually get buccal swabs. They were part of an evidence collection kit taken from Letecia Stauch, which had fingernail scrapings and a buccal swab. So I did portion out some of the buccal swab from Letecia Stauch for DNA analysis.
Okay, and that went on to Donna Minogue's analysis?
Correct, yes.
Right. So now let's go to the shoes that you have there. People's Exhibit 378. Are those the shoes you looked at?
Yes, they are.
Is that People's Exhibit 378?
Correct, yes.
Now, earlier you testified about swabbing for DNA for the presence of things that are other than blood. Did you do that with this particular item?
Yes, I did. Again, we call that trace DNA swabbing. It's in areas that we don't see staining, but we may be interested in any, say, skin cells that may be left by, in these cases, shoes, maybe someone who wore the shoes. We could potentially still get DNA from swabbing, in this case, the inside soles of the shoes.
So can you demonstrate, I know the shoes are in plastic, but can you kind of demonstrate for the jury where you swab these particular shoes in the hopes of finding DNA for the owner of those shoes?
Sure. So for the owner, I would expect that their DNA would be on the inside soles. So I actually, for each shoe individually, these are separate swabbings, I took the swabs together and I swabbed the insole, like reaching into the shoe, and then also the back heel area. And that was done separately for the right and left shoes.
And did that get forwarded on for DNA analysis?
Yes, it did.
Did you also swab any potential blood on the outside of those shoes?
Yes, on the right shoe.
Okay, I felt bad skipping through a bunch more, but you let me know if you guys want me to like kind of jump through. I just felt bad because I don't want to like be hitting my finger nonstop, you know, like jumping through, because I know it's annoying for the viewer kind of jumping around. But you guys let me know if you want me to push forward. You can like skip. Okay. Let me. Okay. All right. Fair enough. She's just going through in trial. It's very important, you know, like to be thorough like this. But some witnesses can take a while because who dat? You know, they have to sit there and go through every single item. Is it in its same condition that it was 4 years ago? Yes, this, that, you know. So, all right. What the hell? What the hell? I just looked down on my floor and like there's 10 little pieces of cotton. Where the fuck did that come from? That's bizarre. Where would that have come from? All right. That's so random. Like I just walked across the room to go grab something, and on my floor, I don't even know what that is. It looks kind of like the inside of a pillow. Random pieces of cotton. Where did that come from? Like, no, I don't have a cat. I fucking hope I don't. No. Like, just in the middle of the room, just on the floor, out of nowhere. Like, there's just like random little cotton pieces. I don't know if it's cotton pieces. That's what I never fucking looked in the back of the drawer. I have to do that. Thank you for reminding me, Kathy. But where did that come from? Like, and what is it? All right. I'll figure it out later. But like, no, Curious Christine, because when I came and started my live, that wasn't there. So unless a fucking mouse came in, danced in front of my eyes, and I didn't see it. And ew, don't freak me out like that. No, the cotton's not moving. You're asking me if the cotton is moving? I'll take a picture. I'll show you. Like, I need to collect it because there's like 10 pieces scattered. I'm looking at my ceiling. I don't know where the fuck that come from. That's bizarre. All right. We're going to move on.
Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Oh, wait a second.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
All right.
Could you please state your name and spell your last for the record?
I know what it is. I have a new pair of sweatpants. And right before I went live, I ran up to the convenience store. And so right after I got back, I pulled off my sweatpants. I shake them, you know, like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, shake it and then fold it. The inside of these sweatpants have like that material. And clearly when I shook it, it shook. And I just went and sat down and I never looked back because I didn't. Why would I look back? That's what it is. See, Detective Melissa, I got it. It was either that or a fucking ghost cat. Both were compelling, but it was the sweatpants. And I hate those types. You know what I mean? Like when the inside, like fuzzies. I was going to say, like, where the fuck did it just rain cotton out of nowhere? It makes no sense.
Introduce yourself to the jury.
My name's Donna Minogue, and my last name is spelled M-A-N-O-G-U-E. I'm currently a DNA analyst and serologist with the Colorado Springs Police Department Metro Crime Lab.
How long have you been a DNA analysis? Analysis.
jump for
Is
you.
that how you say that?
Analysis, yes. Analyst, actually.
Analyst. Prior to that.
I've been in the field of forensics for a little over 35 years, but I'm going to say approximately 30 times here in El Paso County. I've testified
Okay.
Obtain these known profiles in a forensic setting in a criminal case, in a criminal investigation.
Yeah, this is just profile.
They're obtained.
Let me see.
You to making this chart.
Yes, I did.
And is this a good summary of the items that you tested with the results?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, hold on. Donna, you were up there for a bit. Okay, then I'm gonna have to go to the next day.
Right. The battle of the experts, because they'll be following.
So,
I just throw it out there for the defense.
Look at
I would request the instruction, I think, because the evidence, especially the statements of the.
We got bobblehead Tisha. Okay, bitch, let me tell you something. I know you're so fashion, right? There is no way you put an unbalanced sockish bun looking like that on the top of your head. And do you see she pulls down the two side pieces? You're only supposed to do that if they're baby hair. You're only supposed to do that if it's like bang length. Look at her. She pulls down. Look how far it goes. It curls all the way fucking down, man. You don't do that.
The stout are used only for the sanity. It's almost like a 404B. Her statement made to mental health professional only go towards not towards some case. That's what my position is, but I do take the instructions.
And in addition, Your Honor, I did get a chance to talk to Mr. Tweeney this morning. Some of the witnesses are going to be talking about the competency evaluations, which clearly would go to the issue of insanity. And I think that would further elaborate
all the way to the
need to
floor.
instruct the jury for the limited purposes of
I am not familiar with a stock instruction on that. We've had unity trials for a number of years now. Anybody have one?
I thought to hear that is fine.
Queen
All right,
Amidala.
so the evidence you were about to hear
variants?
goes to the issue of insanity and insanity alone.
Sounds great.
Insanity, baby.
You're gonna have to give me a heads up as to when I need to give that.
It'll be before our second
My
witness this
noodle looks
morning, Dr.
funky.
Christine Moore. And
Okay.
Dr. Grimmett will probably be on, I don't know if we'll get to her in the morning, but at 1:30, I would guess.
Okay. All right, we can do that. Is the anticipation that we're gonna be all day with evidence?
Well, we've got 3 witnesses lined up, Judge. It'll just depend on how long each one takes.
The only reason I ask is I'm trying to get I sent an email to Judge Bain and Scott Sosby about possible weather delay. So if we have something, I may know about it beforehand. But if,
Look at
if
the
we
little
don't have a full
curls on them
afternoon, I
too.
doubt they'll have an answer, and they may not have an answer even if we go to 5. So
Yeah, so just
Do you guys remember those little you could light it as kids? You light it on fire and a snake appears like with the ash and an all like jumbled up squiggly type of way. You would light it on fire outside and it would into a snake. That's what her fucking hair looks like.
context wise, there's typically when we of the storm, if I see that, I'll let you know as well.
Yeah, you guys
Although
remember.
the snow, I think it was 6 to 12 in El Paso County.
phone call about 9 o'clock at night, and then Judge Bain is on the phone.
Okay. Give us our witness.
Okay.
And it exposed her ear. The jacket's on.
All right, here we go. Look at those girls. Look at those.
I'm not seeing anything on her waist. As far as like a
Tisha.
shock belt.
Baby
appears visible.
hair. Not, oh my God, not go down your ass type of fucking pieces.
So recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Has
Yes,
anything
please.
occurred since we were last together that causes any of you to believe you could not?
No.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would call Kevin Hoyland.
Last
Kevin
name?
who?
Hoyland.
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 Mr. Hoyland, if you would step
Oh,
forward and raise your
Werner, we
right hand,
both
please.
didn't hear him.
You swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
I don't know, Kimberly. It's fucking
Everybody's done that.
shoulders.
I know. It's a habit.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you.
Will you please introduce yourself to our jury and then spell your name for the record?
Sure. My name is Kevin, Kevin, Hoyland, Hoyland.
Where are you employed by, sir?
The FBI.
What is your job title or assignment?
I'm a special agent with the FBI assigned full-time to the Cellular Analysis Survey Team.
How long have you been in that role?
Full-time with them in that role since 2019. Prior to that, in 2016, I became a certified member of the CAST team, where records provided by the phone companies to understand the general location of where a device was historically when it had made calls or texts.
What kind of education do you have that allows you to do that?
Do you mean the training to?
Sure, yeah.
Gannon's
So the training that I went through and everybody goes through to become certified in CAST at the time was approximately 400 hours of specific classroom instruction. That instruction came from other FBI agents, other government entities, vendors in the cellular industry, and then most importantly, CAST receives training directly from the phone companies themselves. So legal compliance, engineers from all of the major companies come to train us, come to our certification to educate us on how their network specifically works. And to my knowledge, CAST is the only unit in the country to receive training directly from those phone providers.
When you say vendors, who do you mean by that?
Companies that design tools that the carriers may use in their networks. That's primary.
Okay. And then you said companies and carriers. Are you talking about companies like AT&T, Verizon, those kind of companies?
Exactly. At the time when I went through certification, Sprint still existed, US Cellular. So all of the major providers send their engineers and subpoena compliance folks.
So what does that training look like when you get that information directly from the companies themselves?
Well, it's unique, and again, in the sense that we're the only group, to my knowledge, to receive training from them. But it's great in the sense that it allows us to formulate really close and strong relationships with the phone companies. So we know their networks inside and out, and so when we see something amiss or askew in records that we receive, we have folks that we can reach out to.
Okay.
There's current statements you may have received in the past. It says who called who, when that call occurred, how long it lasted. Okay. And then most importantly, the information that we received pursuant to search warrants includes the cell tower and sector that was utilized. Okay. So that's the piece that's really important to us, because that allows us, when we marry up that cell tower with its physical location on Earth, allows us to formulate an opinion as to the general location of where a device had to have been to use that particular tower.
How many people are in the CAST or on the CAST team?
Now there's approximately 80 of us, 60 field assets, as they're called, where they split.
I am interested with this, with the Koberger trial coming up, with all of the CAST and how they're able to do it.
Their time working in traditional cases,
HmmKay.
And then approximately 20 of us, like myself, who do it full time now.
What do we mean when we talk about historical cell site analysis?
So historical cell site analysis is a little bit of what I just mentioned. It's taking these records that your phone and network have generated and mapping out the information to, again, formulate an opinion as to where the phone would have generally have been to utilize a particular tower and sector. And there's hundreds of thousands of towers across the US. Each transaction that we see shows the tower that it used. So out of those hundreds of thousands of towers, it only used one, right? And that tower's only located in one spot. So by looking at how networks are configured and where the other towers are, it allows us to be able to, again, formulate that opinion.
So when you say that you get specialized training due to your assignment to the CAST team, and I know I keep saying cast and then team. That's a little bit redundant, right?
It is, and I do the same thing.
Okay.
Right? We're technically a unit now. We've grown forensic analysis of phones. So
Tell us about
need to look up. There's the phone data from a phone itself, and then there's a litany of other geolocation data sets from other companies that sort of fall into our bucket of trying to figure out where a phone was at a time.
Can you describe, in a general sense, first of all, is a cell phone essentially a small handheld radio?
He's going to be up here a while.
That's exactly
I'm
what
going
it
to
is.
go to when the screen turns on.
Cover page. What does this page tell us?
So it's his past report.
Just the old cover slide here talks about the case numbers, both the FBI and El Paso County ones. The date of my report was finalized in January of 21, and that it's just related to the Stauch homicide.
Tell us about
Okay.
it.
Page 2. What does page 2 tell us?
So page 2 is sort of the beginning of some of the boilerplate slides. This is a brief overview of the investigative information, the purpose of the analysis, which again was just, as sort of discussed, I was called upon to help with the phones to try and identify where Gannon was located. And then the methodology. So briefly, I touched on that. Phones connect to towers, and that radio frequency is what is used to exchange that information from the phone to the tower. Based on the locations of those towers, which are provided by the phone companies, we can map all that out and start to see which, the locations of where towers were utilized to inform an opinion as to the general location of a device at that time.
Okay. Judge, it may be helpful. Would you mind if I turn off the ring lights? Just so.
That's fine there.
Yeah.
The 2 green dots.
Just so there's a little less glare on the. Special Agent Hoyland, to the very bottom, there's a note that says all times you're in are in the local time zone. Can you describe what you mean by that?
Sure. So all phone companies provide their records in a different time zone, which is somewhat annoying. And so in this case, we have multiple phones from multiple carriers. All the data here has been normalized. So it's an all apples to apples comparison. So anytime that you see on a map, on subsequent maps, will be that time, not any sort of time that the phone company had provided the records. And because my analysis stretches a good chunk of the US and we go from multiple time zones, just know that that is, again, always local to whatever location of the map we're looking at that time.
So if we're looking at a map that shows central time zone, it'll be local time for that central time zone.
Correct.
Okay. We're on page 3 now of your report, and this is still a demonstrative slide. Tell the jury what we're looking at in slide 3.
Yeah,
Sure.
tell us.
So similar
Ew,
again to
she's
what was mentioned.
nibbling her fingers
your
and
phone's
picking
always
her
looking
ear.
for the tower that has the best signal, right? It's always scanning that in the background so that it's ready to go when a message comes in or you need to place a call. And that's, again, what gets logged in those call detail records. One thing to note, though, is that your phone's not always going to use the closest tower, right? It's going to use the tower it sees as best. So cleanest, clearest, and just generally best signal. So one way to think about that is imagine you're in an office building and you're standing at a window and you see a cell tower, your phone sees a cell tower a mile away. There's no obstructions, clear line of sight. Now, on the other side of that office building, maybe a half mile away, there might be another cell tower your phone sees. Your phone may choose that tower that's a little bit farther away because it provides a better signal. The radio frequency from that tower to your phone and from your phone back won't have to penetrate the rest of that office building, the concrete, the rebar, the steel, just to get out to reach that tower. It's a little bit closer.
That's good to know.
So something to just keep in mind, I guess, when looking at the analysis.
Okay. Now we're on page 4. What does this one tell us?
As part of this, we also did what's known as a drive test or an RF survey, and that is gear that we have that is standard in the cellular industry that allows us to go out and measure the cell signal strengths in different spots based on antennas we have on our car and a GPS puck. And so from that, we can begin to draw the estimated boundaries of where a tower's coverage area would begin and end and where a different tower's coverage area would start. So in a couple of slides in my report, that type of analysis is shown.
So does this mean that you're physically driving out to these locations to test the signal strength essentially from a tower?
In this case, I didn't specifically do it. I was tied up with some other stuff, so somebody else did the driving. The gear is ours. The data comes back to our server, and I analyzed it. But yes, it's a lot of right turns. You're just driving all around.
Okay. We're now on page 5 of the demonstrative exhibits. Tell the jury what we're looking at here.
So this is a slide to help you understand the concept of sectors. So as I mentioned before, not only do we receive information about which cell tower was utilized, but we also get information about the sector. So if you think of a cell tower as a 360-degree circle, most towers are broken up into 3 sectors. Not all, but
Guys
most.
want me to.
And so each sector, if you divide 360 by 3, each sector would cover approximately 120 degrees. Where this becomes helpful for us is, imagine behind me, the phone was utilizing that tower. I guess I don't
Yes, Callie.
but the one at the top sector.
There's actually an extender pointer up there, an old school pointer, telescoping.
Yeah. Is provided by the phone companies. They're the ones who decide which direction these towers face because they don't all face zero.
Tell us where she went. So.
Yeah.
Is it common that say?
Hey, listen, Artemis. If this was a lecture on quantum physics, I would be so much more interested. I love quantum physics.
I get on a call outside of the courthouse.
It's going to be the red pi wedge. Letecia's had a phone with AT&T as well as Verizon. For consistency, I just made them both blue. It'll be very clear in my analysis when that changes. Harley Hunt's device was also an AT&T, that's gray. Then the bottom 4 are additional geolocation data sets that we were able to obtain. So there was information gleaned from a Volkswagen Tiguan. Those are going to show up as a yellow marker on my reports. There was a rental car, a rental cargo van, I should say, that the rental company had GPS data associated with it. You'll see that in green, as well as a separate rental car where a GPS tracker had been placed on it. That's also in green.
And it didn't
And then
end up doing anything.
there was an application known as Life 360 that was on Letecia's device, one of Letecia's devices. So we received information from Life 360 that also was able to be mapped out and is highlighted by that pink icon at the bottom. So there's a legend on each of my maps. Don't feel like you need to memorize this, but you're going to see
Natasha.
a lot of colors and a lot of moving parts on some of these subsequent slides.
It's
and just for the record, as we're looking at page 9 of this report, item A, which is 843-504-6724, the records for that were admitted under Exhibit 708. Item B, which is 843-655-7460, was admitted as Exhibit 704. Was admitted at D, 843-9 number 291. Was admitted as Exhibit.
So as part of the returns from the phone companies, they traditionally provide subscriber information. So in this case, for the phone associated with Gannon, AT&T was the service provider. It was subscribed to Eugene Stauch at the address given in Colorado Springs. And then just the data my analysis with this particular phone was from January 26th of 2020 through January 28th of 2020.
Okay. And then on page 11, what are we looking at here?
Again, same information. This is for Letecia's phone ending in 7460, also with AT&T. Also subscribed to under Eugene's account.
When it shows that the subscriber information is under Eugene Stauch, but you indicate that this is associated with Letecia Stauch, is that based off of information you get from the investigative agency giving you information about who is associated with each individual phone number?
It is, because again, the records don't tell me who's holding the phone per se, right? But through that, I learned that this number was primarily used by Letecia.
Okay. And then now on page 12, what does this one tell us?
This is the secondary phone that we came to learn about associated with Letecia. This is a Verizon phone ending in 3463. The subscriber information was listed as a Kylie Britt in Orlando, Florida, with an effective date of February 1st of 2020. And this was a prepaid device, right? So not one where a monthly bill shows up. This is you can go buy minutes whenever you want, kind of thing.
Did you have information from the investigation that this was a phone that was purchased by the defendant at a Walmart in Trinidad?
I did.
Okay. Page 13, what does this one tell us?
This is the phone that was associated with Arlie Hunt, number 3486, again, AT&T, and also subscribed to under the Eugene Stauch account.
Page 14.
So these are the other 4 data sets that we saw previously on my sort of summary slide of the selectors. So it just goes into a little bit more detail.
Okay.
Red cross, it was set to essentially ping the vehicle. Where is this vehicle located right now?
Yeah, and you guys didn't.
There was a Nissan rental car, which didn't have, to my knowledge, any sort of GPS built into it, but a tracker was attached to that by the Colorado Springs Police Department. And then lastly, the Life 360 app. So an app on your phone sources the data, sources the GPS of your device and reports it back to Life 360 so that they sort of know where you are, you know where your family members are, if you have a shared plan. That information was provided to us. That account was associated with a user of Letecia Stauch, email Tisha Lynn 2006 at Yahoo, and then the same phone number as her AT&T device.
When you were talking about the Tiguan telematics, you said the OTD shot with the FBI. What does OTD mean?
Operations Technology Division.
Is that in Quantico, Virginia?
It is.
Okay. We're on page 15. Tell the jury what we're looking at here.
So for the first 5 days of my report, there was a variety of locations of interest that were provided to me, as shown here. They all don't show up, of course, on every single slide. As we go through the maps, the ones of relevance I will have populated, so I won't necessarily bore everyone with going through it one by one, but suffice to say, the icons on the right will appear on some of my subsequent slides with the description of what that location is.
And are these locations things that you just pull out of thin air?
No, these were locations, again, that the investigative team had provided to me as locations of interest for my analysis.
Okay. Now we're on page 16. What are we looking at here?
All right. So a little bit busy, so I'm going to take a few seconds to sort of walk everyone through what's going on. If you see in the top right, there's a legend, right? So whenever we're looking at a map, everyone's going to have a legend. It's going to tell you all the key sort of pieces going on the slide. So we have the Stauch residence, which is in the bottom right. It's a little icon that has the house on it. We then have the pink Life 360 markers, which you see sort of walk us from the house up to the Garden of the Gods. The yellow is the Volkswagen Tiguan telematics data, which I just mentioned. And that in the Life 360 data sort of follows a very similar path. And then we have the cellular records. All right. So in this case, we have AT&T records, this call out box here. So on January 26, 2020, at 11:15, Letecia's device received an incoming text message, a system-generated shortcode, which is those 5 digits off to the right. And it utilized that tower and sector down there that faces in the direction of the Stauch residence. So when we look at this call-out box, and we'll see many of them, you've got the phone number associated with the record, and it's color coordinated. So you may see a call-out box that has like 3 or 4 different phones all at the same time. Each phone will be color-coded based on the actual user. Then we see the timestamp, again in local time. Whether or not it was an incoming text, an outgoing text, incoming call, outgoing call, that's all going to be listed next. In this case, the 110 is the direction that sector faces. So 110 degrees is, if you think of a clock, roughly like 4 o'clock. And you can see that that's how that's drawn. So 110 degrees from the center of it. But when taken in totality, we see that at approximately 2 o'clock, The Tiguan and the Life 360 information supports that this device and the car are traveling away from the residence up to the Garden of the Gods. At
This is Sunday,
2:56,
guys. Sunday.
we see Letecia's phone, and it's sort of buried under that. This might be easier to see here. You see that Letecia's phone uses that tower and sector to receive two text messages.
Damn auto corrupt dreadful artist.
The other thing, just to note on this, so these other blue dots here, those are the other AT&T towers in the area that her phone didn't utilize during this period in time. But all told, again, consistent with Letecia's phone traveling from her house up to the Garden of the Gods during the time frame shown on the 26th.
Is it helpful to know that other things happened that sort of corroborate the same information, other ways to verify that there was a visit to Garden of the Gods?
Yes.
Yeah, obviously, the more corroboration you have of a data point, the better.
Okay. And then as far as
Melissa, my fellow Melissa, I can't highlight you on screen right now, but thank you so much. That is such a cute, is that a lemon head? I don't know what it is, but that is so kind, so generous. Thank you so much, Melissa.
your analysis on this, is this the first time on that day, Sunday, January 26th, that the Tiguan left the 6627 Mandan Drive based on your analysis?
I believe it was.
Okay. And so if we've had some prior testimony that there was hiking in a selfie taken at Garden of the Gods on January 26th, that would corroborate
Thank you.
this, what shows a visit of the defendant.
She is
in her
literally
Tiguan and using her cell phone up at Garden of the Gods.
I would say so, because you have the Tiguan, the yellow dots sort of terminate right there. But then the Life 360 points sort of continue off of and away from the Tiguan. This would support the theory that the car was parked and then people got out and walked. And then obviously there was the two incoming text messages, as I mentioned before.
The fact that there was a selfie taken on the defendant's phone showing herself and Gannon and a little girl named Lena that was on her phone, does that also corroborate that she was actually in possession of this phone?
Without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're on page 17. What are we looking at here?
So in this instance, during from approximately 420 to 446, we see Tiguan and Life 360 data sort of reverse paths, right? And there was no cell phone activity during this time that was mappable. So we're left with this. But again, you see the path of travel that the device and the vehicle take back to the Stauch residence.
Okay.
I'm so excited to see this on for Kohlberger.
And then on page 18, what are we looking at?
So at 5:08 that same evening on January 26th, the Life 360 app recorded a variety of points consistent with a path of travel as I show here. So leaves the house, goes down here, you got an activity at 5:14, 5:22, you've got another data point a little bit farther east, and then the next one back there at 5:26. So sort of a quick jaunt away from the house, and then back in 15 minutes or so. And then at 5:27, and then again at 5:48, that device, Life 360 recorded locations of that device back at the house. There wasn't any AT&T activity. There wasn't any.
You know what, Natasha? It's so funny that you said that. If the devil exists, I think it would be a chick.
Tiguan telematics activity during this time, but there was from the Cellbrite, or a dump of the information on Letecia's phone, conversations that she had with Harley via iMessage at 5:11 and 5:13, mentioning she was out getting food because Gannon had an accident in his pants. Now, the important thing here to understand about iMessage is if anybody has an iPhone, when you
Melissa.
send a message to another iPhone user, it doesn't show up as a traditional text message. It goes over the data side of the network. So we'll never see that message in the log of texts for Letecia's device. Only traditional text messages or iMessages that fail and have to be sent as an SMS would show up in her text messages.
You used a
Her hair actually started out straight, but because of the fucking stench, it just shriveled up.
SMS. What does that mean? Just so the record's clear.
Short message service. It's the name for a text.
And then MMS you mentioned also. What is that?
A multimedia service. That would be like a picture message.
The fact that there's no Tiguan telematics data here, does that indicate that
and the guy is saying Tiguan. Thank you, Little Red. What do I got? Oh, ha 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 ha. Thank you, Little Red. Thank you so much. I love it. She's pink. That reminds me of the Stop, Drop, and Roll cartoon that comes up when I play that video. And thanks, lovely LaQuinn. I have a big jumbo. What is that? That's not a cup of coffee. That's red, which I prefer because I don't drink coffee. So is that a big cup of high C? I love it. Thank you so much to both of you. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Bogart. Oh, give me all the tea. Yeah, I guess that could be tea, like dragon fruit tea.
defendant likely drove a different vehicle besides the Tiguan?
It would support that, yes.
Callie.
Page 19. Now, what are we looking at?
So after that 548 event, we don't really have much during the next 4 hours. So at 927, 928, 935, there's some Life 360 activity as shown here.
The candle incident, Sunday evening, guys.
And then at 10:19 p.m., Letecia's device placed an outgoing call using the tower and sector facing back towards the residence to the AT&T customer service number.
The fact that you've got the two entries at 928 and 935 basically
I hate all coffee
at the house, and then there's that one 927 that's sort of kicked out southwest away from the house. Does that tell us anything necessarily?
Yeah, when I looked at the totality of the Life 360 data, you know, it seemed to track quite closely with other stuff. And we didn't see really much derivation from expected paths of travel. So, you know, if I was, you know, looking at this data sort of live, I would have expected that the phone would have not been at the residence, but instead would have been somewhere outside it, south of it.
Okay. And then are we still talking about Sunday, January 26th? In this?
Yes, sorry, we are now evening of Sunday, January 26th.
Okay. Now we're on page 20. What are we looking at here?
Sure. So this is the first of a couple slides that is the drive testing I mentioned. So the way we go out and map the coverage areas of a particular tower, and it's not the full coverage area. The area could extend.
Okay. Tell us.
There's certain areas where there's no roads. We can't go out there
We're going,
to do our
we
drive
don't need
testing.
no
But
roads.
what we can see on the roads that we do drive, is that this particular tower and sector provides coverage back towards the location of the Stauch residence. And so if the device was at that residence, I would expect it to utilize this tower and sector for many of its calls or texts or anything.
And is this going to be the main tower that is used for connection throughout this presentation for the Stauch residents?
Yes, this tower is utilized over and over again by all the AT&T devices when we have corroborating evidence to support that they're at the residence.
Okay.
No
now,
fire,
slide
no
21,
running.
what are we looking at here?
Sure. So the
it didn't get round, Kimberly. It got square. She got full fucking 45 and 90 degree angles going on.
A little bit step back in time. We're now back into the early afternoon on January 26th, but this is Harley's AT&T device. And you see it 241 and at 310, her phone is utilizing two different cell towers facing the Massage Envy area or you know, business. Prior to that, at 148, her phone had placed an outgoing call using that same tower and sector we just looked at. that was facing the Stauch residence. So this would be consistent with her device being near the Stauch residence at 148, and then clearly traveling up sometime between then, where it first utilized a tower near Massage Envy at 241. After that, there was 2 more incoming calls at 735 through that same tower off to the left. So consistent with her being there, and she also had clocked out of work at 10:18 that evening.
So that's what I was going to ask you, and you just hit it. Would this basically corroborate testimony that we had previously that she was at work from basically 2 until 10 roughly p.m.?
Yes, it would.
Okay. And again, is this on Sunday, January 26th?
Yes, it is.
Slide 22, what are we looking at here?
And we see both Letecia and Harley's devices utilizing the tower and sector that faces the Stauch residence. So Harley's entry, she only has one. It's at 2:40. There's an outgoing text message, which was system generated. And then at 4:46 a.m. through 8:42 a.m., you see a bunch of activity from Letecia's device. A lot of outgoing text messages,
Google searches,
incoming calls, etc. So when we looked at the Cellbrite for Letecia's phone, we see that she sent a message to Albert at 2:48 related to Gannon feeling ill. Again, that was an iMessage, so it's not going to show up in our logs here, right? It's not going to show up as a traditional text message. Subsequent to that, there was then at 4:36, you see some messages to her employer saying that her stepfather had passed away and she wouldn't be coming into work that day. At 8:18, as you can see, as I've written here, the last known photo of Gannon was sent to Albert, showing him lying in bed.
Oh.
Again, all of this activity is utilizing that tower and sector facing the residence. This would be consistent with her device being at that residence for the duration of that time, or at least when these messages were sent and received. And then lastly, in terms of chronological order, Harley was listed as clocking into work at 8:30 that morning.
And so just so we're clear, when we're looking at the box with the different activity, the blue box there, you mentioned that Harley's is listed in gray. Will you just stand up and point to that specific thing just so that we're all tracking with the same thing? And so that would corroborate with your key up at the top where Harley's phone activity is listed in gray as well, right?
You have a dancing
Exactly. So
avocado
all
with
of
a
Harley's stuff is going
sombrero.
to show up as gray. All
Little
of
red.
Letecia's phone activity is blue. Gannon's is going to be red.
In the time span for this particular slide, just so you were saying 2:40 and 4:36, we're talking about early morning hours, AM hours.
Yes.
And this is the morning of January 27th, is that right?
That is correct.
That's good. You're welcome, little red.
Moving on to
It's
23, what are we looking
adorable.
at there?
Get it?
So we're continuing on now, still in the morning of January 27th. There was another iMessage sent at 9:54 saying that she was leaving her phone. This is Letecia saying that she was leaving her phone and to be contacted via Gannon's Apple iWatch, which is paired, or sorry, to be contacted on her Apple iWatch paired with Gannon's device. When we looked at some surveillance video, we see that device or that Albert's truck leaves the residence. It's written over it, but around
10:13.
10:13. Thank you. There's a lot of info. I couldn't memorize it all. And then at 1:22, we see Letecia
How is that bun
on
even
surveillance video at
balancing?
Petco. The Albert's truck then returns based on surveillance at 2:20. And there's no Life 360 app data available because, again,
Probably
Letecia
Harley.
left her phone at home. She only took her Apple
All the
iWatch.
guys want her according
So when we look at the activity from Letecia's AT&T phone, we see beginning at 10:39 local time and stretching well past when the truck returns, all that activity is inbound. Again, supporting the idea that her phone was left at home. None of the calls appear to have been transferred to Letecia's Apple iWatch. So, yeah.
Okay. People's exhibit, or I'm sorry, page 24 of this exhibit. What are we looking at there?
So Again, same sort of time frame, but now we're looking at just Gannon's phone. What had happened with Gannon's phone? So we've been talking about voice and text data or informations thus far. AT&T also has data sessions. When we have voice and text, we traditionally use just that. Data sessions require a different level of sort of investigation to validate and confirm accuracy and reliability. And so in situations where we don't see text messages, we don't see phone calls, sometimes we'll use data sessions. And that's what I did in this case with Gannon's device. So you see his phone again in red. At 10:19, he has 2 data sessions open up off of the tower and sector that faces the Stauch residence. You see some of the towers that his phone utilizes along the way. I don't have the timestamps for those, but I jump up here to at 11:07, a data session near the Petco. Then at 1:19, and then again at 1:20, there's another data session off the tower and sector there at Petco. One thing to keep in mind with the data sessions is when they open up, they may stay open for as long as 60 minutes. And so it's not, again, a transactional kind of record wherein we'll see every iMessage back and forth. We'll see every time that person goes out and surfs the web and this associated cell tower. That kind of granularity doesn't exist in the data. It's just that the data session opened up at this date and time, may have been open for up to an hour. What happened during that hour, we can't specifically say. But in this instance, it's consistent with the idea that Gannon's device moved from the residence up towards the PetSmart Petco area. When we looked at the forensic analysis of Gannon's device, we see that the Safari mobile app was used at 11:12 a.m., and then there was no more activity till 1:20. There was an iMessage received on his device at 12:06, which indicates that his device was on and at least connected to some sort of Wi-Fi or cellular, in this case, likely cellular. Sorry, I just lost my thought here.
Yeah, I think I lost mine too, sir.
At that 12:06, that's when the message was sent. But it wasn't actually reviewed or viewed by somebody holding Gannon's phone until 1:20 that afternoon. So roughly an hour and 15 minutes after it was sent, somebody opened up iMessage and looked at that message.
Yeah. Okay. And so again, similar to what I've asked in the past on some of these other slides, the last two, page 23 and 24, outside sources that show that this is valid information. You mentioned the trip and departures on neighborhood surveillance cameras, like Ring doorbell cameras. Did that corroborate them leaving basically the same time that we're looking at in these 2 pictures?
Yes, it does.
And then you mentioned surveillance video at Petco up on North Nevada, showing the defendant and the red pickup being there at that same time. Also, does that corroborate and show that this information is valid?
It does, yes.
On page 25, what are we looking at here?
Still on this January 27th date, early afternoon timeframe, we're looking at 12:18 through 4:25. But this is specific to just Harley's device. So you see Massage Envy, you see the 3 towers that her phone recorded activity through during that period in time. She was recorded as clocking into work at 8:30 that morning. And then at 4:15, she had clocked out, and shortly thereafter, she was seen returning to the residence.
And does this slide validate the testimony that Harley Hunt was at work and not at the 6627 Mandan Drive during these hours?
It would, yes.
And this is Monday, January 27th?
Correct.
And let me go back to page 24 and 23. Essentially, does this basically, these 2 slides show
She does homework.
that Letecia's phone and Gannon's phone leave the residence in the morning hours and then return to the residence at roughly 2:20 in the afternoon?
Well, we don't see Letecia's phone actually leave. So Letecia's phone stays at the residence the whole time. What we do see is that Gannon's device leaves and goes up to the PetSmart
Hey, Jenny.
Her Apple Watch, we don't have any sort of geolocation data to ascertain where it was at any particular point in time.
And then that same, though, information, Gannon's phone showing them arriving back is corroborated by other surveillance video in the neighborhood.
That is, yes, correct.
Okay. And then moving on to page 26 of the exhibit, what are we looking at here?
So that evening of the 27th, we see in this call out box, we have 3 different colors, right? We have gray, which is Harley's activity. We have blue, which is Letecia's activity. And we have red, which is Gannon's phone activity. So beginning at 6:38 through 6:58, Letecia has a variety of outgoing calls, including a phone call at 6:55 to 911. Again, using the tower, and all 3 of those phones are all using the tower and sector facing the residence. At 7:31, and then again at 7:32, Gannon's device places an outgoing call to the same number ending in 6679. There was significant vehicle activity based on surveillance that we observed. And then at 8:05, Albert, who was not present, contacted the El Paso County Sheriff's Office as well. So again, this would be consistent with Letecia's device being at this, in and around the residence from 6:38 through 8 o'clock. Harley had 3 calls, all outgoing at 7:01, 7:02, and 7:02 as well. And then there was a smattering of Life 360 activity on Letecia's device, placing it in and around the residence at 6:52 through 6:59.
You make note on there that the Letecia's phone called 911 at 6:55 p.m., right?
That's correct.
And then you also make note that there are 2 outgoing calls from Gannon's phone at 7:31 and 7:32 p.m. If Letecia is calling 911 and reporting Gannon as being missing at that 6:55 p.m., is it likely that it's not Gannon using the phone at 7:31?
That would, yes, that would make logical sense.
Page 27 of this exhibit, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so from 8 p.m. on the evening of the 27th through 6:19 a.m. the morning of January 28th, 2020, Letecia's phone had 65 different calls or texts utilizing the 2 towers shown here. 64 of them went through the tower and sector facing the house. An incoming call at 5 a.m. was off the tower and sector just south. Additionally, Gannon's device had a variety of incoming calls, text messages, outgoing calls, again, utilizing the tower and sector shown there.
Oh, I hate her.
The El Paso County Sheriff's Office was physically present at that residence from 10:09 p.m. through 11:39 p.m. on the evening of the 27th. But you can see, again, the variety of activities sort of throughout the night for those devices.
Did not sleep.
And is this basically showing Monday, January 27th, nighttime hours into Tuesday, January 28th?
It is, yes.
And then again, similar to the last slide that we were just looking at,
yes, she
the
did
fact
grab a
that Gannon's
CC.
phone is showing activity, even though he had been reported as missing 6:55 p.m. on the 27th, is it also likely that it's not Gannon using the phone at this particular point?
Yes, because some of the calls that occur are during the period when the police officers or the sheriff's office is there.
And some of these are outgoing, meaning somebody's actually physically manipulating the phone.
Correct.
Page 28, what are we looking at here?
So on this slide, we were in the early morning hours of January 28th. And at 6:21, Letecia's device sends an outbound text message utilizing the tower and sector, again, facing the residence. Around that same minute, the Tiguan is seen on surveillance video leaving the residence. When we look at the Life 360 app data, we see 6:24, data point there, 6:25, and it's 6:27 up here, a little bit north of the house. At 6:27, her phone also receives an incoming text message through that tower and sector there, the same number that she had recently just texted about 6 minutes prior. After that, we see the Life 360 app data come back south. 628, 630, 631, back at the residence. At 640, Letecia's device receives an incoming call through that same tower and sector facing the residence. And then surveillance video also shows her, or shows at least the Tiguan backing into the garage at 636. So what it appears to have happened is that her device left in the Tiguan, got a little bit north, for some reason turned around and returned back to the house.
Did her device grow legs and go up there by itself?
I've never seen that.
Okay. Page 29, what are we looking at here?
So as you can see, 6:43 to 8:11 a.m. Both Letecia and Gannon's phones have a variety of activity, incoming and outgoing calls through the tower and sector facing the residence. 2 out of the 3 calls with Gannon's device were outgoing at this time.
And we're talking about January 28th now?
Yes, still on the 28th, morning of the 28th.
So that would be Tuesday morning?
Yes.
Is this basically showing that both of these phones are at the Stauch residence with no departures, at least as we can tell by phone activity?
Yeah, it would nothing to indicate that these phones had left the sort of the general area of where the house is, for sure.
Okay. Page 30, what's on page 30?
So at 8:13, we have a Life 360 app marker just west of the house, along with some Tiguan data starting to show up.
Werner's like
We have some
sleeping.
calls, 8:16, or texts and calls at 8:16. We have some more texts and calls, 8:21, 8:25, and then a call incoming at 8:34, utilizing a tower
They're
at the
gonna
Colorado
break
Springs
in
Airport.
a few minutes
And based on the
for the morning, and that's where I'll pause
imagery
it.
there of the Tiguan locations and Life 360 app locations, it would be consistent with the device and the vehicle both traveling to Colorado Springs Airport, arriving somewhere between 8:27 and 8:31. At 8:25, Letecia had sent Albert a text, and he had responded 4 minutes later, asking, saying that he had just landed, asking if he was still going to pick her, asking if she was still picking him up. And then subsequently, during a search of the Tiguan, a parking receipt was found at 8:28. The last data point for the Tiguan for this day is at 8:31 that morning. So for the rest of January 28th, we don't have any more Tiguan data.
Okay. And then as it relates to this particular slide, the cell towers that you have indicated here, they have little red numbers in a circle. What is that all about?
Sometimes when we have lots of data, our maps get busy, and sometimes it's hard to make everything fit. So all these refer to is the corresponding cell tower. It's just like a visual to help you identify that, you know, this call out box here is associated with this tower that has the 3. The actual cell number itself is that CID number after it, but that's all it is just to help you vector into which tower we're talking about.
Mary
And
Poppins.
so does this also corroborate the idea that Mr. Stauch flew into the Colorado Springs Airport on this Tuesday, January 28th, and the defendant picked him up at that airport roughly at the same time?
It does.
And just thinking ahead as far as break, what do you want me to shoot for as far as?
It's your call. If another 10 minutes or so would be better, but if we need one now, it's okay too.
No, we'll go another 10 minutes. Thanks.
All right, 10 more minutes.
Page 31, what are we looking at here?
We could do it.
Page 31. Still that morning, January 28th. So following the slide that we just looked
Mike,
at.
wow, it's been forever.
At 8:48, and again at 9 o'clock has shown up here. And through 8:45 through 9:02, Letecia's device is utilizing this tower and sector and has a bunch of Life 360 app hits there. We learned that that Letecia had rented a Kia Rio from the airport around this time and picked up Albert at approximately 8:50 that morning. And when we continue to look at the cell tower usage and the Life 360 app data, we see that her phone travels south away from the airport, returning back to the Stauch residence at approximately roughly 9:15. When we looked through her phone dump, Letecia's phone dump, we saw that she had sent an iMessage to Harley minutes prior to picking up Albert, asking Harley to move the Jetta into the garage.
Which I'm still curious why she
And
did
then
that.
surveillance again shows the Kia arriving back at around 10.
Yeah, she eats those
9:15.
fingers. And look,
And so does this,
her bun slowly has just drifted to the back. Like it started sitting plopped up, centered. Well, slightly centered. And then it's just slowly falling back.
slide basically corroborate the idea that the defendant left her Tiguan someplace and then now is mobile in the Kia rental vehicle that was rented at the airport?
That's correct.
And so now we don't have any Tiguan data anymore. We're just looking at Life 360 data and any cell phone activity.
That's correct.
Okay. And again, is this Tuesday, January 28th in the morning hours?
It is.
Page 30. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm good.
Page 32. What are we looking at here?
So a little bit, a few minutes later, 9 o'clock hour, 9:37 to 11:44. Again, Tuesday the 28th. You see the activity shown here. So from 9:37 through 10:55, Letecia's device utilized that tower and sector for a variety of calls and texts. But we also see, beginning at 11:01, some Life 360 data. And we see that data continue up until 11:44, where it puts her device near French Elementary. As you can see, there was a tower that was utilized at 11:30 all the way up there for an incoming call. Also sort of supporting the theory that her phone had traveled away from the residence. And also as part of her trip, we see that her phone, based on the Life 360 data, sort of stops here at a strip mall for about 25 minutes before continuing northward.
And just so we're understanding how the Life 360 works, does that app essentially just drop breadcrumbs as it's moving along? Or why are we seeing so much activity on the Life 360 and maybe not necessarily as much phone activity?
Well, the phone activity isn't going to be GPS derived, right? The phone activity is only going to occur when there's activity on the phone, when somebody's making or receiving calls or texts. The data sessions are aside from that, and that's not mapped here with Letecia's. The Life 360 app, though, its purpose is so that you know where your family members are, right? And so it's sourcing and harvesting that GPS. It also uses Wi-Fi and Bluetooth based on what they have on their website. But it's recording that information and storing it so that you can look and see where your son or daughter had been, or where somebody in your family might be. So that's their business model. They need to record a lot more precise location data than what we would see from a traditional phone record.
Okay. Moving on to page 33, what are we looking at here?
So beginning at noon, Letecia's device receives an incoming call through that tower and sector that's actually sitting right under the French Elementary tower or location. At 12:07, again, more Life 360 app data begins to show that device traveling south. At 1 o'clock, we see, let me take a step back. At 12:24 through 1:14, you see in that box up there, that's associated with this tower here. There's a variety of activity from her phone using the tower and sector facing the residence. So, bless you. A little after 1 o'clock, we see Letecia's device travel away from the residence based on the Life 360 app. And we see at approximately 1:30, it stops near a Starbucks. That is where Letecia ended up being interviewed by the sheriff's office. And
she blew out the camera.
Following that, and we also see some phone calls right in the box there. off of that towered sector facing Starbucks at 1:40 and then 2:23. And then more Life 360 app data brings that phone back to the area of the residence at approximately 2:45.
So does this show basically at that 12:07 traveling from the residence up towards French Elementary, what you have indicated with an FE on the map, correct?
This would be travel away from French Elementary.
Okay, but showing being up by French Elementary and then coming back towards the residence and then going to the Starbucks for that interview with Sheriff's Office personnel and then back to the residence.
That is correct.
Okay. Page 34, what are we looking at there?
So afternoon of Tuesday the 28th at 3:06 through 3:45, we have some activity here
Really, HmmKay?
off of the tower and sector again, facing the Stauch residence.
Yeah, you know what?
Sorry, so 407,
Makes sense for
417, and then
concrete, yeah.
425. So all of that activity taking place there. At 425, we see the Life 360 app data begin to move away from the residence up north. Letecia's device, the Life 360 app records a data point right off Route 21 at 432, a little bit inside the airport area. At 450, we see Life 360 right there, back on Route 21, along with an outgoing call through that tower and sector adjacent to it. And then at 5 o'clock, the Life 360 data puts Letecia's device, that northern section of the airport. Yeah, and the call at 451 was to Albert's device.
So if we had prior testimony that Al was at the sheriff's office at roughly this 4:20-ish timeframe on this particular day on January 28th.
Yeah, sir.
This shows the defendant traveling separate from Al, who would be at the sheriff's office.
Polished
Yes, that's correct.
concrete.
And then where the AP marker is up there, is that essentially obviously it's the Avis car rental, but is that the airport, Colorado Springs Airport?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then page 35, what are we looking at there?
Now beginning at 5:18 and 5:38, and then you see an outgoing call from Letecia's device off the tower and sector facing Massage Envy. There's a decent amount of activity from her device in and around that Massage Envy area. Following that, Life 360 data brings Letecia's device southward from Massage Envy back towards the residence. You can see the multitude of incoming and outgoing calls that she made and the different towers that she utilized. But at 5:56 and 5:57, she used that tower and sector facing the residence. And between 5:55 and 5:59,
Is she wearing her shirt
Life 360
backwards?
data puts her device in and around that area of the residence.
Okay. And again, is this still that same Tuesday, January 28th?
I think she might be wearing her shirt fucking backwards.
Judge, this might be a good time to take our break.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will take our morning break. If I can have everyone back in the jury room at say 10:35, we should be able
Hold
to
on,
start
I want to see
time
your
at that
stand up.
point. Again, don't discuss the case among yourself. Don't discuss the case with anyone else. Don't do your own investigation about any aspect of the case. With that, we'll see you back in about 15 minutes or so. All rise for the jury, please.
Is she fucking wearing it? Yo, look how fucking high. Look how high that fucking collar's coming up. Well, it's not a collar, whatever it's called. Look how high it's
we'll
coming
try to
up.
break this down. Some of
her
this has been
neck.
heard before. Some of this, the
And you
ping
can
data
see it's lower in the
GPS
back.
data.
You can see her bra straps, yo.
has been heard before, but this is sort of wrapping it up and putting a bow on it, so to speak.
Yes, I think this is supposed to be a longer in the front, a little shorter in the back. Yo, this
data
bitch.
with the maps and the location. So this is new on that front.
It is way small on her, but there's no way that collar, you could see her straps in the back because it's lower in the back.
Mr. Hoyland, you can step down if you would like to.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be in recess. Thank you.
All rise.
Look at no cut goes straight across your neck like that.
There we go.
You see?
All right.
Yo, she's definitely wearing that shit. Yeah, working that bun. All right, my brain feels like it's fell asleep and morphed a little bit. It's melting. I like watching the details of what the phone activity was doing. But it was just a little redundant and my brain's tired. So, all right. We will be doing Tisha next for members only Monday. Tomorrow is Wade. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your Saturday night. If you're in the area where the hurricane was, I hope you are safe. There's not too much damage. I will be praying for you all. And so, yeah, have a kick-ass rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.